Summer 1884 brought change to Colorado Territory, where tough land bred tougher men, and wealth meant cattle counts and family reputation. The Thornfield Ranch spread across dusty plains, 15,000 cattle, 60 cowboys, one boss who never backed down, Marcus Thornfield. But this Western love story follows his son Blake Thornfield, a man raised under a powerful legacy that left no space for personal dreams or romance. Blake entered the ranch office wearing his usual business face, calm, strong, unreadable. Cigar smoke and old money filled the air. Marcus spoke without looking up. "Time has come, Blake." Blake stood firm. "Time for what?" Marcus pushed a folded letter across the wooden desk, voice flat as iron. "You're marrying Isabella Sterling this Saturday." Blake blinked once, not shocked, but confused. Isabella Sterling? The girl from Ridge Valley? Thought that family lost everything. Marcus leaned back in his leather chair. "She still owns her father's land, barely. She's the last Sterling. Joining families makes business sense." Blake crossed his arms. "So I'm just breeding stock." "You're a Thornfield," Marcus said, voice getting harder. "You don't marry for feelings and romance. You marry for land, for family legacy. Just like I did." Blake stared at his father, the man who built a cattle empire without ever saying love. He wanted to argue, laugh, or walk away, but something old and tired kept him still. "Do you even know what she looks like?" Blake asked. "Pretty enough, smart enough. That's all that matters. You'll say the wedding vows." Outside air was thick with dust and judgment. Blake walked past horse stables, past the cowboy quarters, past fence lines where sky met land and nothing felt certain. Isabella Sterling, he remembered her vaguely, like remembering an old storm. Quiet girl, intelligent eyes, kept to herself. "This is crazy," he muttered to no one. 2 days later, Thornfield Chapel stood dressed in sun-dried wood and silence. No roses, no ribbons, just wind, dust, and whispered conversations through old timber and narrow church benches. Blake Thornfield stood at the chapel front in a black coat and polished boots that reflected regret. The crowd was small, ranch hands, a preacher who owed Marcus money, and town folks who came to witness history or scandal. Then came the creak of chapel doors. She didn't ride in elegantly or glide gracefully. She walked, measured, straight, veiled. Her dress was simple gray, buttoned high, no fancy details. The veil shimmered like morning mist over grass. The preacher began traditional vows with familiar words. "Do you, Blake Thornfield?" "I do." "And do you, Isabella Sterling?" Her voice was soft, clear. "I do." "You may lift the veil." Blake hesitated briefly, then reached forward. Fingertips touched lace as he slowly drew the veil back. There she was. Not plain, not forgettable, not weak. Isabella Sterling had beauty that didn't beg for attention, it waited. Her eyes met his, steady and unwavering. For the first time in years, Blake Thornfield felt uncertain. She stood calm, composed, untouchable. He suddenly didn't know if he'd made the worst mistake of his life or the best one. The Thornfield ranch house was big not just in size, but in history. Blake opened the front door and stepped aside. Isabella entered, eyes steady, boots echoing softly on polished floors. She took in the place with one sweeping look, not admiring, assessing. "This where I'm expected to stay?" she asked calmly. Blake nodded once. "Room down the hall is yours. Mine's across." No warmth, no welcome, just architecture and obligation. Isabella unpacked in silence. Books, a worn journal, a leather bag of dried herbs, a small framed photo of her father. Items that carry memory like scent in old clothes. No words had passed between them since the veil came down, just 2 doors clicking shut in perfect timing. Isabella was up before dawn. By the time Blake stumbled in, hair damp, boots loose, she was already seated at the kitchen table. Black coffee in front of her, and the ranch's financial ledger open beside it. He blinked. "You're reading the business books." "You left them out," she said, flipping pages. "I figured I'd learn how this place breathes before trying to change its lungs." Blake frowned, pulling out a chair across from her. "You always talk like that. Only when people assume I'm not thinking." Something passed between them then, not heat, not yet, just a pause that said, I see you. I'm not what you expected, and neither are you. Out here, dry wind and careless sparks can ruin a legacy faster than a gunshot. Blake was at the south fence line checking a broken post when the smell hit him. Not wood smoke from campfires, this was different. Wild, sharp, fast. Fire, he yelled, mounting his horse and galloping toward the barn. Ranch hands scrambled, buckets flew, men cursed the wind. In the middle of chaos, sleeves rolled, skirts hitched, stood Isabella, hauling 2 water pails like she'd been born doing it. Blake dismounted fast. What are you doing? She didn't stop moving. Helping you. You'll get yourself killed. So will your fence line, she snapped back, eyes flashing. Their gaze locked, smoke in air, heat on skin. Then without another word, Blake grabbed a bucket and followed. The fire didn't take the fence, but it left its mark. Blake and Isabella stood shoulder to shoulder, clothes soaked, faces streaked with ash. Ever fight fire before? He asked, breathing hard. No, she said, but I've had to hold back worse. He glanced at her, really looked this time. Not just at dirt on her face, but at how she stood, unshaken, unbent, alive. You didn't have to do all that, he said. Neither did you, she replied, but we did it anyway. Days passed. The ranch returned to rhythm, but the air between Blake and Isabella was different now. Not cold anymore, just quiet, like a question waiting for an answer. Blake stepped into the room one evening. Isabella sat by the window, sunlight caught in book pages. What are you reading? He asked. A training manual, she said. Wild horses. Says they run until they don't. Blake chuckled softly. Sounds like me. Isabella smiled barely, but it was the first real one he'd seen. He sat across from her. Why did you agree to the marriage? He asked. She looked at him, not startled, not defensive. Because I was tired of surviving alone, she said. Blake leaned in slightly. Not tired of being alone? No. Just tired of pretending it didn't matter. Later they sat side by side on the porch, separate coffee cups going cold on the railing. Sky stretched wide and clear, full of stars and unspoken things. I misjudged you, Blake said. You weren't the only one, she replied. What did you expect me to be? Isabella turned toward him, gaze steady. Louder, dumber, meaner. Blake burst out laughing, real and warm. Isabella joined him, just a little. It wasn't romantic yet, but it was something rarer, ease. At Hollow Creek Summer Fair, the biggest story walked in wearing a plain blue dress and a name nobody expected to matter again, Isabella Sterling Thornfield. Blake rode beside her, but he wasn't who folks were whispering about. Isabella didn't shrink. She walked steady, eyes scanning, mouth soft but sure. Children waved, some adults nodded stiffly, others just stared. Isabella stood by baked goods when 2 local wives moved near. That her Sterling girl? Thought she'd be plainer. Isabella turned and looked at them, calm as still water. My father used to say, talk less and let your work answer louder. They blinked. One cleared her throat. Would you like a slice? Only if you're sharing it honestly, Isabella said. They laughed, awkward but real. A thaw began. When Blake stepped beside her again, he said, they expected someone smaller. They weren't the only ones, she replied. They walked back to horses in quiet rhythm. Blake glanced at her. You care what they think? No, she said, but I care what you think. He stopped walking, hand brushing hers. Then maybe I ought to start thinking clearer. That night came slow, like it knew something sacred was about to be spoken. Blake sat on porch steps, staring at stars. Isabella stepped out barefoot and sat beside him close enough to feel warmth. You ever wonder, Blake said, if life would have been simpler if we hadn't said yes? Isabella sipped her tea. I don't think I ever knew simple, she said, even before. Blake exhaled hard. I didn't want this marriage. Not because of who you are, just because I didn't know how to be anything else but what my father told me. And now? She asked. Now I sit beside you and wish I'd met you before all the noise. Before the land and names and deals. Isabella's eyes held steady. You're meeting me now, she said. Is that enough? He asked. Only if you mean it, she replied, and if you're brave enough to keep doing it. Blake reached over, not to grab, not to claim, just to rest his hand on hers. She didn't move away. I never imagined you, he whispered. That's the thing about real things, she said. They don't need imagining, just seeing. Above them, stars blinked not like wishes, but like promises. Blake Thornfield stood in his father's office the next morning, coat unbuttoned, jaw tight, hands clenched just enough to tremble. Marcus looked up from papers like nothing had changed. But everything had. You've been distracted, Marcus said casually. That woman has you second-guessing things. She's not that woman, Blake said. She's my wife. Marcus didn't blink. That was the deal. She gets security, we get land, you keep the name intact. No, Blake said. She gets more than that. You're getting sentimental. I'm getting free, Blake answered. From what? Marcus snapped. Everything I built for you. Blake took a slow breath. From the idea that power is better than peace. Marcus stared at him for a long moment, the look of a man who realized the reins were no longer in his hand. You disappoint me. Good, Blake said. Means I'm not you. Blake found Isabella by the horses, hair braided, sleeves rolled, checking feed bins. Well, she asked when she heard footsteps. I told him, Blake said, that I choose you. Not because it makes sense, not because it's expected. Because I want to. Isabella studied him, expression calm, thoughtful, strong. You sure? She asked. I've never been more. Then let's see if you mean it tomorrow, she said. Blake tilted his head. What's tomorrow? The ridge, she replied. We ride it together. If you still feel the same by sundown, I'll believe it. Deal, he said. For the first time, she smiled first. Some folks think love comes like lightning, sudden, loud, unforgettable. But out here on Colorado ridge lines, it comes quieter, like hoof beats in soft dirt or a hand reaching out when you least expect it. Blake and Isabella saddled up at dawn. No ceremony, no audience, just two horses, one sky, and miles of land that once divided them, now beneath their shared path. They crossed old markers, rusted fence posts, weathered trees. This used to be your father's, Blake said, pointing to a gnarled cottonwood. Isabella nodded. It still is, in spirit. She looked back at him, but today it's ours. At ridge top, they stopped. Below lay all of Thornfield's empire, cattle grazing, barns glinting, fences stretching like stitched threads across a golden quilt. Blake pulled off gloves. Never thought it'd feel like this. Isabella tilted her head. Like what? He turned to her. Like home. Blake took her hand, not forceful, not hesitant, just steady. I want to build something here. Not just fences and barns. With you. For real. Isabella met his gaze, then pressed her palm to his chest. Start here, she said. Start with you. They mounted up again, no longer distant, no longer strangers on paper. Just two people choosing the same direction, the same dust, the same dawn. Blake Thornfield thought he was marrying for land. Isabella Sterling thought she was marrying for survival. But in the quiet between storms, in firelight and starlight and truth spoken soft, they found something neither expected, a love that doesn't announce itself, just arrives and stays. And that, friends, is how two proud hearts found their way home.